also holds she also holds a diploma from International Academy of Classical Homeopathy from Greece, and she is also a coordinator of e-learning courses, Telangana International Academy of Classical Homeopathy. Along with this, okay. Uh, so in today's CME, the agenda would be like we'll be starting with the corporate introduction of Bhargava Pipe Lab, followed by shared by Dr. Saritha Agarwal again on homeopathic management of urticaria, and then followed by the question answer session. So let me go make you go through the brief of Bhargava Phytolab. Bhargava Phytolab was initiated in 1920, in the year 1920, and we are proud to have that proud to say that we are having the largest production capacity in Asia. We are having more than 3,000 products formulations, and along with the strong QA, QC, and regulatory department. And we also do have advanced formulations. Again, I'm very happy to share with you that we are having our global presence in more than 40 countries and with registered office in more than 9 countries. Then the product portfolio which Bhargava Phytolab handles includes mother tincture, dilution, biochemic, biocombination, single remedy titration tablet, single remedy gels, homeopathic complex tablets, homeopathic minims, syrups, ethical tablets, drops, ointments, oral care products, external oils and gels, pellets, and food supplements. Then, as I told you that we have crossed 100 and plus years with the presence of homeopathy with your support only. Then we usually conduct this type of CME in which we invite doctors for in which the doctor talk about the cases which we have which they have successfully treated, and we make them live as well on Facebook. Along with this, we also have an in-house publication of Beyond Practice, in which this is a book in which we basically publish evidence-based case study from from homeopathic doctors. And for the upcoming months, we are having a topic of benign tumor. And by any chance, if you have treated benign tumor and have evidence-based clinical study for that, so you can share with us. We will be happy, more than happy to share or publish that in this book only, that is named as Beyond Practice. So, and again, we are having with the most trusted brand, that is Spondin, the most trusted brand in homeopathy for neck and shoulder pain, the #1 brand, and having a trust of more than 30 years. So, not taking much time from my side, I'd like to again welcome Dr. Saritha Agarwal to take the session ahead. Dr. Saritha, are you there? Dr. Saritha?
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, you are.
I'm audible?
Yeah, you are audible now.
Okay. Thank you so much. Hi everyone. My name is Dr. Saritha Agarwal. I practice in Hyderabad. So today's topic of discussion is homeopathic management of urticaria. So you want me to share the screen now? Hello? Am I audible?
Sorry, can you just stop screen sharing option? Yeah, ma'am, you can share the screen now.
Yeah, done. Hi everyone, like I told you, today's topic of discussion is homeopathic management of urticaria. So I would like to start this presentation with a small tribute to our father of homeopathy, Dr. Samuel Hahnemann, and also to the father of modern homeopathy, George Withelkus. Because of his teachings only, I am being able to practice classical homeopathy for the last 20 years. Okay, so coming to the presentation per se, So let us first understand what do you mean by urticaria. Urticaria, as we all know, it is commonly known as nettle rash or hives. It usually presents with a bumpy skin. You have a raised skin associated with redness, itching. One second. Which can occur in any part of the body. It can sometimes be associated with sensation of heat. And this itching or rashes can appear even in the lips and throat. So sometimes you can have just raised eruptions in the, you can just have swelling of the lips. Sometimes it might not be associated with itching, but it can still be urticaria. So the name urticaria is derived from the Latin word sometimes in cases, chronic cases, it can last for days or years. So let us understand the incidence of urticaria. Urticaria, you can see through the map, it has its own global presence. So it can affect 20 to 25% of patients with people with simple wheals, where you have only redness or itching, and 5 to 10% people can have dermographism, which we will understand in the later part of the presentation. It can affect both the sexes equally and also can affect any age group, like small children to elderly people. Anybody can be affected with this disease. So coming to the types of urticaria, there are basically two types of urticaria, as is common with most of the diseases: acute and chronic. So acute urticaria is if the rash is clears itself completely within 6 weeks, it is called as acute urticaria. But if it continues for more than 6 weeks and you have on and off episodes of urticaria, in that cases also we call it as a chronic urticaria. Here I would like to make a special mention of a different type of urticaria, which is little relatively rare, but it is called as the Urticaria Vasculitis. Here what happens is the blood vessels, generally what happens is we see the inflammation in the skin, but in Urticaria Vasculitis is what happens is you see inflammation in the blood vessels there's an inflammation in the blood vessels, and you can see redness. It's a very painful condition associated with itching, and it usually leaves behind a bruised mark. What you can see in the picture is Urticaria Vasculitis. I have treated a case of Urticaria Vasculitis, which I'll be sharing with you in the later part of my presentation. So what causes urticaria? To be very honest, there is no one known cause for urticaria. It is multifactorial. So it can be from an allergen, it can be from a physical trigger such as from extremes of temperature, it can also be from an underlying health condition, and sometimes, like I told you, there is no clear reason why they occur. In the case of chronic hives, some experts believe that it can result from an autoimmune reaction, but they are not really sure about it. So coming to the allergens, like I told you, whenever a person, it can happen from contact with any kind of allergen. It can be a common soap to any drug or anything like that. So whenever the person comes in contact with an allergen and he develops urticaria, that is what when we call it as a contact urticaria. So what happens exactly when the person is exposed to the allergen? The body releases a protein called as histamine. Then the tiny blood vessels leak fluid, and this fluid accumulates in the skin and causes inflammation, what we see as the tiny bumps in cases of the, which are also called as wheals. Okay, next is, like I told you, acute urticaria can be
Dr. Saritha, you need to share your screen again. You need to unmute yourself. You're on mute. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. Can I continue with the current slide, or
You need to share your screen again and then you can continue.
yes?
Yeah.
Oh. Like I told you, whenever the person is exposed to the allergen, there is formation of the mast cells. They release the histamines, which causes swelling in the blood vessels, and the liquid leak a liquid which accumulates under the skin, and it causes this red bumpy rashes. So this was the allergens. Next can be the physical triggers. There can be multiple physical triggers which can induce urticaria. Some people can develop urticarial rashes after only exposure to sun. Scratching or rubbing the skin, like what you can see in the picture, this is called as a dermographism. So wherever the person scratches, he develops this red wheals, which can sometimes have heat sensation, and it can be also itching. It can also happen from pressure. If you put a pressure over a particular area for some time, okay, and when the pressure is released, that is when also the person can develop urticaria. This can be a little delayed response. For example, somebody wears a tight belt, and once he removes the belt, then he can develop this redness, swelling around the area where the belt was worn. Next is the extreme temp, which is the previous one is called as the pressure urticaria. Extreme temperature or changes in temperature, like it can be from extreme heat. If the room is very warm, they can develop urticaria, which is called as a heat urticaria. Similarly, if they're exposed to very cold weather, they can develop cold urticaria. You also have a rare type of urticaria, which is the person develops rashes only after being only on touching water, which is called as the aquagenic urticaria. And few people, whenever they're exposed to any kind of vibrations, they can develop vibratory urticaria. Generally, aquagenic and vibratory urticaria are relatively rare in our practice. So what could be the underlying conditions? They can be sometimes underlying conditions which needs to be evaluated whenever you are having a chronic case of urticaria. It can be from anything like viral infections from such as common cold, glandular fever, hepatitis, bacterial infections such as UTI or streptococcus infection of the throat. Some intestinal parasites also can cause urticaria. Most of the cases, whenever the urticaria is not responding to the medicines, we generally send them for the thyroid profile also, because we want to rule out the autoimmune hypothyroidism. Other autoimmune conditions can also be associated with can also lead to urticaria. So example, rheumatoid arthritis, SLE, Sjögren's syndrome, celiac disease, and type 1 diabetes. You can also have other inflammation of the blood vessels also, which can lead to urticaria. So what are the typical symptoms of urticaria? See, these are something which doesn't require a lot of diagnostic tools. Urticaria is better clinically diagnosed, that is on examination or at least the history of the patient. So you have a typical raised skin lesions, which is called as a bumpy skin. It can appear in patches. Sometimes you can have a pinpointed, it can be simple as seen as pin pricks, or it can sometimes you can see as large patches. It can be itchy. They can be redness associated with sensation of heat. The typical this thing of urticaria is whenever you press it in the middle, the color starts fading. So this is how clinically you can diagnose the case to be urticaria.
Dr. Saritha, a small request we have from our audience. Yes. Can you go a little bit slow?
Oh, I'm going so fast. Sorry, I'll be a little slow.
That's there in the chat window that we have received. Yeah.
Okay. Sure. So the bumps in this case can last no longer than 24 hours. But in some cases, like I told you, in case of urticarial vasculitis, it can last for more than 24 hours also. The size of the lesions can be from a pinprick to several inches. You can have large patches also. And the one, if it is not so simple, sometimes you can have symptoms of anaphylaxis also, wherein the patient will have dizziness, troubled breathing, swelling of your lips, eyelids, and tongue, which is a very rare condition. In such cases, the patient needs to be sent to the emergency unit. So hives and stress. See, although there is no clinical study which has told that the urticaria is caused because of stress, but we have known through our practice, or at least taking sometimes, some kind of physical stress or some disappointment or some anxiety can also trigger urticaria. So let's just, as I told you, urticaria can be multifactorial. It can be from stress, food allergens, environmental allergens, genetic tendency, drugs, and from a underlying systemic illness. So how do you diagnose a case of urticaria? Like already mentioned, we can go through the proper case taking should help you in the diagnosis of urticaria, and also the physical examination. I already mentioned, like whenever you press it in the middle, when if the person has come to you during the rash and you are able to examine him during that time, when you press it in the middle, there will be fading of the skin. That is diagnostic of urticaria. You can all now many allergy tests are available in most of the diagnostic labs, so you can send them for all kind of food allergy or pollen allergy. You can also send the patient if you're suspecting any hypothyroidism or other autoimmune diseases. In case there is some associated fever and all that, you can send them test for infection also. I don't think skin biopsy is required in most of the cases, but if nothing works, you can also send them for skin biopsy. So what are the complications of urticaria? See, although the disease might sound very simple to live with, but it can be annoying and it can actually trouble your life in multiple ways, Somebody develops an urticarial rash during the night. So obviously the person will suffer from a lot of sleep deprivation. This can, if the urticaria has been there, and it can be followed by lack of energy. The person gets so conscious about it that he can develop social isolation, and if he has to suffer with this for years together, then it can also lead to anxiety, because he doesn't know what triggers, when he will develop the rash, what will be the intensity of rash, because sometimes it can be simple mild rash, or sometimes you can have large patches. So people don't know what to do when they suddenly develop urticaria, right? And chronicity of this problem can lead to depression also. So what is the allopathic approach of urticaria? As we all know, people are being asked to use antihistamines because they provide immediate relief. So, and they have to be taken regularly. If the person misses antihistamine even for a day, then they develop the rash next day. A new drug has chronic hives may be treated with antihistamines or a combination of drugs. When antihistamines don't provide relief, oral steroids are given. A biological drug called as
Again, you need to share your screen and unmute yourself.
yeah, 1 second. She's yeah. So, what do people generally do when they have this acute urticaria at home? So, they generally try to want to do something to give before they take up the medication and all that, something which can give them immediate relief. So, a soothing lotion or a cool compresses eases the itchiness. Wear very loose, light, and cotton clothing. Avoid scratching, because as we scratch, the histamine which is being secreted by the mast cells increases. So you should always ask the patient to avoid scratching. Use mild soaps, moisturizers, and other cosmetics for sensitive skin. Avoid overheating by taking cold showers or using a fan. That is for people who have heat urticaria. Avoid sun exposure for people with solar urticaria. So, in general, you have to avoid exposure to known triggers, because and it generally doesn't happen in most of the cases. It happens only in few cases that the person knows that what is causing urticaria, but most of the cases it's not known what really causes. It can happen anytime. Coming to the homeopathic approach of urticaria. Like our master has said, medicine is a science of experience. Its object is to eradicate diseases by means of remedies. So here we should have the knowledge of the disease, what we have seen. We will know what are knowledge of the remedies, which we will see through the commonly indicated drugs, and the knowledge of their employment constitutes medicines. So I'll be sharing few of the cases which I have treated in my clinic also. So what is the homeopathic approach? See, we all know that there are different types of prescriptions. The most important thing is you need to have the totality of symptoms. Okay, but there has to be sometimes a causative prescription. Sometimes it has to be given on the PQRS symptoms. So many types of prescriptions are there. So what do we understand by homeopathic approach to urticaria? So as we know, we don't have any specific medicine for the same diagnosis. Like for example, every urticaria patient will require a separate remedy. Okay, so homeopathy has no specific medicine for all patients of same diagnosis. It treats the patient individually. In homeopathy, external application on the disease part is not applicable. Only homeopathic medicine should be given internally, only which is selected on the totality of symptoms, which is given in the aphorism 194. As regard to the cause of the disease, we have seen so many causes, right? Dr. Hahnemann has classified causes into three categories. What is the exciting cause? Exciting cause generally happens for acute diseases. Maintaining cause, if somebody has a chronic stress or underlying medical condition, it can be a maintaining cause, which is called as a causa occasionalis, which must be removed where it exists for chronic diseases. And the fundamental cause, which is generally due to a chronic miasm. So it is also very important that we have the miasmatic analysis in the cases, especially in chronic urticaria cases, which is given in the aphorism 5 and 7. The homeopathic treatment consists of not only giving the indicated homeopathic drug, but to eliminate the exciting as well as the maintaining cause. For treating the patient's personal history like age, mode of living, diet, occupation, domestic circumstances, social relations, etc. are very important. It only helps us to know the patient completely, but also helps us to know the cause of the disease and many other factors which maintain the disease, like the exciting or the maintaining cause, as well as for the selection of the homeopathic medicine. This is given in the aphorism 208. So what I want to share through this slide is basically a proper case taking with understanding the exciting cause, the maintaining cause, and the fundamental cause will help us to treat any chronic case also, and also for the acute cases. So let us have a quick this thing at the representation of urticaria related rubrics in repertories. So how many drugs are given under Kent repertory? See, in Kent repertory, urticaria is represented under the rubric skin eruptions urticaria, wherein there are 101 drugs. In Boger-Bonninghausen repertory, it is given under the rubric skin eruptions urticarias, and within the bracket there is nettle rash. Boger-Bonninghausen repertory has 75 drugs. Boger synoptic key, the rubric is skin eruptions urticarias, hives, wheals, etc. And there are 11 drugs under that. Boric repertory under urticaria has got 54 drugs. Nur repertory of Herring's guiding symptoms has the rubric skin eruptions urticarias, and in the bracket there is nettle rash and hives with 61 drugs. And Clark in the prescriber under urticaria has got 10 drugs. So like I was speaking to you about the miasm, so a miasmatic tendency, which is a predisposition. It can be a soric. Urticaria can present in either soric, tubercular, syphilitic, or in very rare cases as psychotic miasm. Okay, so a miasmatic tendency, that is a predisposition or susceptibility, is also often taken into account for the treatment of chronic conditions. The homeopathic treatment for urticaria given below indicate the therapeutic affinity, because next slide I'll be telling you what are the commonly indicated drugs, but this is not complete and definite guide to the homeopathic treatment of urticaria. The symptoms listed against each medicine may not be directly related to the disease, but in homeopathy, general symptoms and constitutional indications are also taken into account for selecting a remedy. So the first drug which comes to our mind whenever we think of a case of urticaria is the most commonly prescribed drug is Apis mellifica. So what are the characteristics of Apis mellifica? There is always a stinging sensation, itching as if something is pricking inside. The itching is always worse at night. The urticaria may consist of an isolated elevations which are quite painful and tender to touch. This is the physical general of urticaria. The skin is very painful and it is always tender to touch, which can later become purple or livid. There is a slight fever or heat of the skin. So whenever you have a urticaria patient and when you touch the skin of the patient, there is always heat. Okay, and there is burning pain. Generalized anasarca as a common concomitant to the urticaria can be present. There is an aggravation from change of weather, warmth, exercise. Urticaria is also worse both during chill as well as during fever. So if somebody develops urticaria during fevers, you can think of Apis mellifica, wherein the rashes will be worse either during the chill as well as during the fever. Here, I forgot to mention the urticaria, like I told you, is worse from heat, but the patient feels better whenever there is a cold application. The urticaria sometimes accompanies asthmatic troubles. Coming to the next drug is arsenic album. Arsenic causes urticaria with burning and restlessness. They develop rashes. There is intense burning, and the patient gets so restless that he just starts walking around. He doesn't know what to do because of the burning and itching. Okay, this can be given during the recession of urticaria. Urticaria in arsenic album develops after eating after eating shellfish, which is also seen in Urtica urens. Urticaria in arsenic album gets worse at seashore and during sea bathing. Apart from this, these are the presentations of urticaria. You can also have the coexisting symptoms like great prostration, rapid sinking of vital forces, which is extreme weakness, fainting. The person can be extremely anxious, fearful, restless, full of anguish. He can also be irritable, sensitive, peevish. The greater the suffering, greater the anguish and restlessness and fear of death. Somebody comes to you with urticaria and he has fear of death, you should not think of any other drug apart from arsenic album. So like I told you, mental restlessness, both physical but physically too weak to move, the characteristic of arsenic album, as we all know. It is indicated by periodicity. Time aggravation is after midnight and from 1 to 2 a.m. And associated by this, the intense restlessness. Restlessness in arsenic is both mental and physical, and it's anxiety and frustration. Coming to the next drug is Natra Muriaticum. Although these are deep acting and constitutional drugs, I just want to tell the characteristics which can present during an urticaria, symptoms or the modalities. So in Natra Mur, urticaria is usually triggered by exercise or sun exposure. For treating urticaria triggered by exercise, Natramur is a great option. Urticaria here, in Natramur, we see generally urticaria in the flexure of the joints. They start develop itching in the flexure of the joints, okay, associated with great itching. And this is attended with violent itching and burning. Natramur is also one of the most effective remedies for solar urticaria that arises from exposure to sun. Eruptions itch, smart, burn after exposure to cold damp air near seashore and intermittent fever. Near seashore was also arsenic album, and intermittent fever is also Apis mellifica. Itching is particularly worse from physical exercise. Urticaria may even be over the whole body with large, red, intensely itching blotches. Apart from the acute totality, it also acts as a deep constitutional remedy. So, for example, like he is very introverted, desires salt, any history of grief or depression or disappointment, you can also think of Natramur in such cases. Coming to pulsatilla. Pulsatilla hives, generally pulsatilla, here the urticaria, sorry, yeah. In pulsatilla, hives are generally of gastric or uterine origin. If somebody has developed urticaria of some gastric discomfort or from some uterine problem like delayed menses, irregular menses, or few cases of menorrhagia also, you can think of pulsatilla. Urticaria after eating very rich food like pastries or pork, or like I told you, delayed menses. Urticaria with diarrhea, itching is worse at night. It can start generally in the evening, but it worsens through the night. Mostly, we all know that pulsatilla is a hot patient, but an urticaria he can be chilly, and he prefers to be in a warm room. So it is adapted to persons. Like now, the common characteristics of pulsatilla would be it is adapted to persons of indecisive, slow, phlegmatic temperament, sandy hair, blue eyes, pale face, easily moved to laughter or tears, affectionate, mild, gentle, timid, yielding disposition. So typically the woman's remedy, we all know that. So they weep very easily, almost impossible to detail her ailments without weeping. So you can imagine a urticaria patient crying and telling you about the problem. So the next drug is urtica urens. As the name itself suggests, it is
Dr. Saritha, we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, this looks like there is,
Yeah, some technical issue, I guess.
yeah, I guess. So you want me to start with urtica urens again?
We can check with
I don't know
doctor.
which part of it. So I'll just start with urtica urens again.
Yeah.
There is intense itching, burning, as if something is burnt, with raised red blotches, fine stinging points, pale rash requiring constant rubbing, consequences of suppressed urticaria. Eruptions and itching disappear as soon as she lies down and reappear immediately after rising. So if some patient complains that he has urticaria only while she's awake and is better after she lies down, then you can think of urtica urens. This edema of the face, chest, and limbs without inflammation. You just have this swelling. Urticaria affects patients every year in the same reason. So this is one of the characteristic of urtica urens. Somebody comes with urtica which comes back only in a particular season. It can be either summer or winters or rainy or spring. If it is coming only in a particular season and rest of the year the patient is asymptomatic, you can think of urtica urens. The site of urticaria is, it usually starts in the face, arms, shoulders, scalp. You can patient, whenever you can have a patient of vomiting and diarrhea after suppression of urtica. Some cases of urticaria we have which have been suppressed because of some drugs, and the patient develops vomiting and diarrhea. You can also think of urtica urens. So the next drug is Rustox. Rustox is from cold exposure. As we all know, urticaria which develops from damp weather or after getting wet in rain. Here, the lesions are associated with itching and smarting sensation. Warm applications provide some relief. Vesicular urticaria after getting wet during rheumatism with chills and fever worse in cold air. Patient has itching all over, but it is more in the hairy parts with burning after scratching. So it is adapted to persons of rheumatic diathesis, bad effects of getting wet, especially after being overheated. The next drug you can think of is Sepia. Sepia is generally indicated for chronic urticaria. At least I have not given anybody for acute urticaria. So chronic urticaria with burning, stitching and itching, which gets worse on exposure to open air. So whenever open air, or it can be either cold air also. Here the urticaria first appears on the face, neck, forearms, and then gradually spreads to all over the body. The attacks are preceded by nausea. So whenever you have a patient of chronic urticaria and he is either having with rash nausea or preceded by nausea, you can think of sepia. And you also have pressing headache with face swollen as in erysipelas. So you can have actually the swelling of the face in case of sepia. Urticaria, like I told you, appears only the upper part of the body after exposure to cold air, and he's better whenever he's in a she's better whenever she's in a warm room. Eruptions in the form of wheals as if due to blows or whip or rod. Like somebody some like it can be used for pressure urticaria. What we can see, somebody has some kind of hit and then they develop urticaria over the area, then you can think of sepia. So it is adapted to persons of dark hair, rigid fiber, but mild and easy it is, I'm sorry, it's not decomposition, it's disposition. So sulfur is the drug for all the skin complaints. So we cannot finish therapeutics of urticaria without sulfur. So sulfur is given for urticarial eruptions arising from heat exposure. It is attended with itching and burning. Scratching, as is the common characteristic of sulfur, scratching worsens the itching. In some cases, even washing may worsen the itching. Most persons prescribed sulfur will notice a worsening of itching towards evening. Sulfur is also the best solution for urticaria cases that have been suppressed with ointments in the past. The next drug is Bovista. Bovista covers nearly the whole body. There is burning, itching, which is not relieved by scratching and comes more at night. Urticaria, which is caused by tar. The itching worse is after getting warm. Urticaria with a disposition to diarrhea. Each tool is followed by tenesmus. The other concomitants of urticaria are scorbutic gums, inflammation of the eyes, metrorrhagia, and various mental symptoms. Person who suffer from tetary eruptions, dry or moist, adapted to old maids with palpitation, stammering children, discharge from nose and all mucous membranes, very tough, stringy, tenacious. Usually deep impression on fingers from using blunt instruments, scissors, knife, etc. So like I told you, in case of sepia, somebody gets hit. Here if somebody has also having a pressure urticaria, we can think of Bovista also. Intolerance of tight clothing around the waist. Sweat in the axilla, smells like onion, which is the characteristic of Bovista. The next drug is Dulcamera. Hives come on at night. So it is given for urticaria, which usually happens during night, especially when the nights are cold. A characteristic is of Dulcamera is hot days and cold nights, or when weather changes from warm to cold or damp. Here, urticaria can be associated with violent cough and edema of the glands, feverish urticaria, obliging one to scratch and burning after scratching. Every eruption being preceded by sensation of pricking over whole body. Eruption of white, irregular blotches raised upon skin surrounded by red or areola, appearing in warmth and disappearing in cold.
Ma'am, you're stuck again. I think we have lost connection with Dr. Saritha. Kindly wait for a couple of minutes. She should join again. Yes, ma'am. You can continue.
Yeah. So the other drugs, I'll just mention few characteristic symptoms of the other drugs is antimicrodum. Whenever you have dirty and unhealthy skin, and it is associated with gastric disorders similar to pulsatilla, but here you have a white coating of the tongue. It is aggravated in the evening, heat and washing. The patient is better in the open air. The other drug is antiparentum. Here rash and erythema with troublesome itching. Itching, typically begins between the fingers. You have irregular rounded patches lying close to other. In some places they can become one, and in between the normal skin will be there. So you have large patches with intermittent normal skin, and these large patches, they have a marbled appearance. It can last up to 5 days, turn brownish and desquamated slightly. Eruptions thickest on body and extremities, extensors. The drug that we have seen for urticaria and flexors is the Natra Mur. Here it is given for extensors. More covered than flexor surfaces. Eruptions begin on the face, arms, last on the legs. The other drug is Chlorarum. Chlorarum, here there is intense itching after spirituous liquids, hot drinks, and chill, and better. Another characteristic feature of Chlorarum, which I forgot to mention here, is the rash typically appears during the night and disappears during the day. The patient has no symptoms whatsoever during the daytime, but as soon as when it starts towards the evening, the itching starts and it is there all through the night. I had treated very old lady with Chlorarum, which I'll be presenting in the later part. Sorinum, urticaria after every exertion. But it can be after exertion can be Bovista and Natra Mur also. But in Sorinum, the urticaria, it happens from change of weather, from cold, and the patient is better from heat and summer. Copaiba is another drug here, which is it is given for chronic urticaria of children, hives with fever or hives with constipation. Astacus. Here the chronic urticaria with nettle rash on whole body with itching. Here in Astacus, the another characteristic is most of the chronic urticarias with underlying liver disease. If somebody has a liver problem and chronic urticaria, you can also think of Astacus. Phregaria, swelling of the whole body due to urticaria. Belladonna. Very acute cases, you can give belladonna. It is attended with severe headache, with redness of face, aggravated touch, noise, and lying down. Caladium, urticaria alternating with asthma. This is one of the characteristic of Caladium. It is worse from motion and better after sweat. Bombex is also given for itching of the whole body. Now, I would just want to share few cases which I have treated in my clinic. This is the case of Urticaria Vasculitis. The patient was a dentist. She was 46 years old and she had this urticarial vasculitis for about 5 to 6 years. So being a dentist, she herself came with a diagnosis. So I did not have to go through the pain of diagnosing the case. Okay. She would develop itching over the back with sensation as if something is pricking inside, then followed by coldness. She would feel like ice-like sensation beneath the skin and itching. After she would scratch, there would be bruises, which is very characteristic of Urticaria vasculitis, would develop over the areas after scratching, and that would leave behind a hyperpigmented scar mark. The part would be very sensitive to touch. I mean, because you have inflammation of the blood vessels there, right? So it would be very sensitive to touch, and she would actually apply ice over the area. Her associated complaints was hypothyroidism since 8 years, and she was on Thyronorm 75 mcg regularly. She had other symptoms of hypothyroidism like dryness of skin, weight gain, hair loss, frequent headaches. She would also feel very lethargic with no inclination to work. So going through her physical generals, she would eat very less despite being hungry because she was very conscious about her weight. Water would be 3 liters per day. Bowels were normal. Urine normal. Sleep refreshing. Dreams nothing significant. Perspiration would be profuse, more in the face. Thermally, she, although being a patient of hypothyroidism, she would like cold weather. She couldn't tolerate heat. Desires were spicy, sweets, very cold drinks, ice, fruits. There were no specific aversions. So mentally, she is a calm going, independent woman who does not like depending on someone. She gets scared of quarreling and shares all her problem with her daughter. She is very close to her daughter. She has fear of accidents, water, and traveling. Traveling because of the fear of accidents. She would try to help people in need. She says initially she was very sensitive now, but she has decreased because she feels that people are misusing her emotions. She was very workaholic, but now because of her lethargy, she is not able to go to the clinic also regularly. Based on the totality of her lesions, see, initially I thought first let me treat the acute totality. So what I did was the characteristic symptom which was there was internal coldness, which was better by ice application, and it was extremely sensitive to touch. So I gave her to begin with Ledampal 203 doses on 13th September 2021. She came back to me on 11th October 2021. Now she had a small lesion on the abdomen, but there were no itching. Sensation of coldness persist on the lesion in the abdomen. Hair loss, headache, no much change, but the lesion on the back had completely disappeared. There was no mark also. I just wanted to, because she had this underlying thyroid problem, I wanted to understand whether there was any increased TSH levels. So I just continued with Ledampal because the itching had come down, and gave her SL for 1 month. She came back to me on 11th November 2021. Rashes were better, but they were recurrence on and off. Like now she would get just little cold sensation or very mild itching, but there were no bruises as such. Okay, her TSH was 8.73 despite using Thyronorm regularly. So because of this underlying condition, I thought as an intercurrent I should give her Thyroidinum 200, and I had given her SL because she was going out of station. I had given her SL for 2 months. She came back to me on 7th February 2022. The rashes were 90% better. Hair loss was also better. Frequency of headaches had significantly come down. There was no cold sensation in the rashes now. Because there was no indication of any other disease, any other symptom, I had given her SL for 2 months. She came back to me on 10th of April 2022. The rashes had completely disappeared. Her thyroid level has come back to normal. Hair loss was better. Headache was there on and off due to work stress. Because she was she was feeling very much active and there was no lethargy. Hence, she was going to her clinic also regularly now. Coming to the next case. This is a case of a 90-year-old male patient, Mr. NK, who visited my clinic on 25th February 2021. He would come with only redness of the face. There would be severe redness. This has started in September 2021. He was diagnosed to have urticaria because initially when it had started, he went to his local physician who had diagnosed him to be urticaria and gave him Tevzin tablet, which is nothing but levocetirizine, on and off. But now since 2 months, the redness of face has increased and it is associated with itching. So initially the patient had only redness of the face. Now he also has itching and sensation of heat in the face. He would feel as if the entire face has become very hot. The redness would also be seen occasionally on the upper lip. His rashes have started. I asked him what was the reason. Why did he develop this rash? Did he have any kind of emotional or mental stress? He told me his rashes he had noticed what started after he failed to crack the NEET entrance. And he was extremely disappointed after that. Coming to the modalities, redness was aggravated after bathing with warm water, sun exposure, morning, and too much of walking. Whenever there were any increased physical exertion, the face would completely become red. He would feel better after washing with cold water. There was no significant past history or family history. All his physical generals were normal except for like desire for spicy food. Thermally, he is a hot patient. He had intolerance to sun from childhood. Like whenever he would go outside in the sun, he wouldn't feel very nice, but he would not develop any rashes. But he was just not happy going out in the sun. Mentally, he was very calm, quiet as a child. He would want to be alone. He said that he finds it very difficult to express his emotions, and he finds it difficult also to mingle with others. He was extremely sensitive by nature, would get hurt by any kind of reprimands or any kind of criticism. And he also felt very sad. He was feeling sad not for himself. He was feeling sad that he had disappointed his father by not getting through the entrance. He was basically wanted his father wanted him to become a doctor, and because couldn't clear the entrance, he thought that he has disappointed his father, and hence he was very sad about it. Hobbies were music, likes music. So his totality of symptoms, which I considered, was reserved, introverted, sensitive to reprimands, ailments from disappointment, hot patient, urticaria, aggravated heat, sun, exertion. So I gave him Natramur 30, 3 doses weekly, and SL for 1 month. On 25th February, he came back to me on 22nd April. Patient was better with redness of the face and used Tevzin only 2 tablets. Let me tell you, he was using Tevzin on and off, but for the last 2 months before he came to me, he was using this tablet every day. Okay, he was given. I thought the patient was improving, and I continued with Natramur 30, 3 doses weekly, and SL for 1 month. The next follow-up, the patient came back to me after a gap of 4 months. He came back to me on 7th of August. There was again increased redness in the face, because now he was getting exposed to the sun every day. In between also he was going out in the sun, but now his redness had increased from both going out into the sun and also from walking. So I thought I had given him Natramur 203 doses. The patient was followed for another 4 months with no recurrence of urticaria, rash of the face. After giving Natramur 200, touch wood, there was no recurrence of rash, and the patient was also mentally improved. After a gap of 1 year now, he had joined BSc because he was at home for last 1 year, as he was very sad and depressed and didn't want to continue with his studies. But now he wanted to start it. Now he had started his joined a BSc course. Coming to the case number 3, this is a case of Miss 24-year unmarried girl, Miss PB, who had presented with urticarial rash since 4 years on 18th December 2021. So how this has started was 4 years back, she had a dog bite in the right leg. So immediately after the dog bite, she developed reddish papular rashes all over the body. It was associated with severe itching. She was taken to the physician and was given the rabies vaccine along with the antihistamines. She had used these antihistamines for about a month. After that, she was totally okay. But 3 years back, what happened was she developed chicken pox. After that, so in between 1 year, she was totally asymptomatic. So after chicken pox, her urticaria flared up. She was again given antihistamines for a month and she was better. But now for the last 3 months, the rash has become almost constant. Itching starts in the legs and hands, followed by wheals and sensation of heat. So whenever she would have this itching, she had the heat sensation. Urticaria would be aggravated from chalk, dust, crocin, sunflower oil, before menses, sheep wool, like any kind of woolen clothing, fish, and she would better by ice application. She was using Livocet on and off, which was almost every day. In her history, mother also suffers from chronic urticaria. Her past history is dog bite 4 years back, chickenpox 3 years back. Family history, mother also has urticaria. So coming to her physical generals, appetite is normal, thirst is 1 liter per day, bowels regular, sleep refreshing, dreams nothing significant. Whatever she thinks, she would dream about it. Perspiration was scanty. If at all she would sweat only on the upper lip. Thermos like cold weather. Desires chicken, lady's finger, pickle, nothing significant. Aversion sweets. Habits milk 1 glass. Her mentals was she would easily mingle with people around her, but she was also extremely sensitive as a person. She would fear dark weeping tendency even when spoken loudly. Even if somebody would call her name loudly also, she would start crying. So the probable drugs, because she was a hot patient, that I could think was sulfur, pulsatilla, and natramur. The drug selected was pulsatilla because the rashes were aggravated before and during menses, after rich food, hot patient, thirstless, scanty perspiration, sensitive girl with weeping tendency. In this particular case, after giving only 3 doses of pulsatilla 200, there were never ever any episodes of urticaria. The patient was followed for 2 years because her mother was also coming to me for urticaria. I kept asking her for 2 years almost, but never ever did she have any recurrence of urticaria. Coming to case number 4, this is a case of a 74-year-old Mrs. JRK. She presented with itching and redness. Here, she had only itching and redness of palms and soles, nowhere in the body, since August 2021. She came to my clinic on 4th January 2022. She was using Levocet tablet daily at bedtime. Her characteristic feature, what I have seen was that itching was there only during the night, and there was no problem during the daytime. Itching was better by warmth. She had no other associated complaints. At 74 years, she was non-diabetic, non-hypertensive, absolutely touchwood healthy. There was no significant past history also. No, all her physical generals were normal. There was no history of any mental or emotional stress. So, because there was no much totality that was present in this case, and there were no significant modalities also, so I started searching for the repertory, that is when and materia medica. So in Patak's materia medica, I read that urticaria, which is worse by night, disappears by day, suddenly appears from chill, better by warmth, worse alcohol, stone colored. So that was there in Chlorarum in Patak materia medica. So she was given Chlorarum 200. 200 was selected because her vitality was good. Okay, and Rubrum was given for Rubrum or SL was given for 15 days on 4th January. The follow-up on 18th January, itching and redness of the palms and soles is lot better. Now she has reduced Levocet to weekly 1 to 2 tablets at bedtime. She was initially using it every day. There was no indication of any other drug. The drug was acting well, so we continued with Rubrum for 15 days. The next follow-up was on 4th February 2022. There is no itching and redness of palms and soles. The patient has stopped Levocet completely. She was given Rubrum for another 1 month. There has been no recurrence of rash till date. Coming to case number 5, this is a another unique case which I would want to share with you. This is a case of a 46-year-old female, Mrs. GD. She's a housewife. She would present with large. In the clinic, I had not seen such large patches ever. She would come with large patches on her body since 10 months. She came to my clinic on 29th April 2012. The patches would be around 10 to 12 centimeters long and 5 to 6 centimeters wide. Patches would be hot to touch, associated with itching. She says the patches have started after her menses got delayed. I thought she was into the perimenopause, so her menses were getting delayed. But since the time her menses started coming after 45 days or 50 days, she developed this rashes. This was a history given by the patient. Patches would come at any time. That the patches would be more whenever she's in closed places and better after cold applications. She was given pulsatilla to 30, 200, 1 m based on the totality. Of course, all the physical generals I have not shared here because lack of time and this thing. But there was very little or absolute no improvement, to be very frank. She was also given acute medicines like Epis, Urtica, Sulfur was given as intermittent. I thought might be Natramur should be tried, but there was absolutely no improvement. That is when on just reviewing the case, she told me for the first time that itching would start between the fingers and then followed by large patches on the upper limbs. So after going through the materia medica, Clark's Dictionary of Practical Materia Medica, it was written in Antiparentum. Rash, erythema or urticaria with troublesome itching, chiefly between fingers. Irregular rounded pimples lying close together, in some places confluent, forming patches between which skin was normal. So based on this indication, I had given her antipyrenum 33 doses weekly for 3 months, and then followed by antipyrenum 200 with complete relief to the patient. The patient was extremely happy, because her life had become so horrible because of the latch patches that she was having. She was very, very happy after antipyrenum. So in some cases, whenever the commonly indicated drugs are not being basic, you should think of some characteristic, some PQRS symptom, which helps us to think of some drug which we might not think on regular basis. Coming to case number 6. This is the case of Mr. GNM. He's 41 years. He presented with urticarial rash since 4 months on 10th of December 2020. It had started after some peanuts. Okay. After having peanuts, immediately next day he developed itching followed by reddish rashes all over the body. He had used Allegra 180 mg with temporary relief. Now he has redness of the skin followed by itching and sensation of heat and burning after scratching. Location was in the chest region. Sensation as if something was pricking or biting. Modality was bathing. Amelioration was for washing with warm water. Based on the acute fatality, I had given my urticaria urines 33 doses followed by SL for 15 days. The follow-up on 25th December 2022, rashes were better. He had mild rashes 1 to 2 times, mild itching and redness of the skin. SL was given for 15 days. There was no urtica urines given. Follow-up on 12th March. After 3 months, he had increased rashes since 1 month. Now he had rashes increases only after milk. He also has now come with a scan report of fatty liver. Based on the causative modality, he was given Astacus 203 doses. After that, the patient felt better. The rashes gradually started decreasing, and the patient was followed for 6 months. Now he is totally asymptomatic. The last case that I would want to share with you is a case of a 16-year-old girl, Miss PS, who came with urticarial rashes since 1 month on 8th July 2016. Itching starts in the back and lower limbs, followed by large bumps all over the body. Sensation of heat before the itching, aggravated heat, evening, delayed menses, ameliorated cold, eye supplication. Associated complaint is irregular menses since menarche at 12 years. Then also she had similar urticarial rash, but was better with homeopathic medicines. She had used homeopathic medicines with some other doctor. Now her menses are delayed since 2 months and there is reappearance of rash. See, she had come to me on 8th of July, but her last menstrual period was on 15th of May. So almost it's been 1.5 months that she didn't get her menses. Other problems were hair loss, weight gain after menarche and recurrent boils. Her weight was 85 kgs. 85.3 kgs. There's been history of measles in childhood. Family history, father had chronic kidney disease, mother had psoriasis. Appetite increased. She would eat every 1 hour. Thirst is 1 liter per day, which was very less. Bowel movement would be regular or sometimes alternate day. Sleep unrefreshing. She would sleep for 10 hours and still feel that the sleep was unrefreshing. She had peculiar dreams of killing her mother, sometimes ghost, dogs. Desire sweets, pastries, chocolates. Aversion, bitter things. Mentals, she was an open-minded, liked to be caressed, with weeping tendency, likes company, can make friends easily, sensitive to comments, fear of dogs, rats, alone, ghost, not very ambitious, liked badminton and classical dance. Based on the totality of symptoms, she was given pulsatilla 203 doses and SL for 15 days on 8th July 2016. She was advised scan abdomen to rule out PCOD because there was a lot of weight gain, irregular menses and all the other symptoms. So follow-up was on 4th August 2016. Urticaria was better. Her weight was the same. Previously, she was using 6 tablets of Evil per day. Can you imagine how severe the itching was? Now she had made it 1 tablet per day. No menses yet. There were no appearance of menses yet, despite giving pulsatilla 200. Headache 2 to 3 times Irritability was a lot better. Her thyroid profile was 6.9. Scan showed mild PCOD. She also had indigestion, dryness of skin, and hair loss. That based on the, I felt the totality still holded. So I gave her Pulsatilla 1 and 3 doses, followed by SL. So follow up on 3rd October 2016, urticaria rash had decreased. She got her menses twice after we gave her the last dose. First was on the 14th of August and second on 22nd of September. Bleeding was normal. Her urticaria completely disappeared with regularization of menses. But she also continued her treatment for PCOD for some time. Thank you so much. Now you have any doubts, you can ask me. I hope I didn't make you guys sleep because it's a hot summer afternoon. Hello.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saritha. It was a nice information. So I have a request for everyone in case, doctors, you have any query that you would like to get answers from Dr. Saritha. I'm sure she would be happy to help. Any questions? Yeah, Dr. Smita is asking skin itching because of mosquito bites.
Mosquito bites, you can think of drugs like Apis or Ledampal.
In case of urticaria aggravated from milk remedy was given solely on the symptoms.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
In case of urticaria aggravated from milk remedy,
Hmm.
was milk remedy was given solely on this symptom. She's asking a question.
No, it was not given based on solely on that symptom. Other totality was there, was also taken. See, I have not shared the entire cases, because the entire cases obviously will be very lengthy and all that. So I just took few key points and given. It was not it was not based only on milk.
Bed bugs bite remedies during traveling.
Bed bugs, you can think of again drugs like Ledampal or Apis only. I mean, or you can also think of Caladium also.
In the case thyroidinum prescribed, have you stopped Thyronorm allopathic medicine?
Yeah. Yes, eventually the patient is still on medication. Now she was previously using Thyronorm 75 mg. Because her thyroid profile had come back to 4-point change, I have reduced it from 75 to 50 mcg, and the patient is still on under treatment for hypothyroidism. Although the urticaria is better now, her urticarial vasculitis, I'm just treating her for hypothyroidism now.
Dr. Neha has a question.
Yes.
She says that can you differentiate between pulse and Astacus in urticaria?
Astacus, you have itching all over. Astacus is a very rare remedy with no much of modality in this, right? So Astacus, generally the underlying problem is only liver problems. Okay. And Pulsatilla will have all the other symptoms. Pulsatilla will be aggravated from heat. Pulsatilla will be aggravated from rich food, pastries, some woolen clothing, some kind of weeping also can aggravate urticaria and Pulsatilla. So this is how you, at least I differentiate. And Pulsatilla doesn't have any severe underlying liver problem.
Okay, another question. Urticaria aggravated by little rain. In that case, what can be given? Patient
Little
doesn't
rain.
even get wet, but urticaria is aggravated.
Yeah, even from exposure to cold, damp weather, urticaria can get aggravated. The drugs that you should think of is Rustox and Dulcamera. Dulcamera, especially when the day has been hot and the nights are cold, you can think. Sometimes, during summers we just have a shower of rain and the person develops urticaria. Such cases you should think of Dulcamera. Rustox more towards rainy seasons.
Okay, Dr. Swati has a question. Allergic rashes on sides of fingers and toes in students during exams.
Is it urticaria? You should think of antiparentum because that is when where the itching generally starts in between the fingers and toes.
What are the key symptoms of our antiparentum?
Antiparentum, like I told you, you have this itching which starts between the fingers and toes, and then this rapidly spreads and it presents as large patches, and the patches are so big, and there is so much of heat associated with the patches. Redness is there, that you, in between the patches only you see the normal skin, and the patches will have a pitted appearance, like a marbled appearance. It will be like you can see the pitting of the hair follicles in the patches. Okay, and the patient is better from warmth.
Okay. Okay. Now, Dr. Suresh has a question. If the patient is unable to give any specific modalities, just the symptoms, in that case, how to manage?
What kind of symptoms? That will again depend, no? If he has only wheals, or he has only itching, or he has sensation of heat, that will again help you. At least on the symptoms, we can think of the commonly indicated drugs. See, there are many cases of urticaria wherein you will not find all the mentals and the physical generals. That is when it becomes difficult. If the patient is not able to give you the complete totality of symptoms, it is better to go with the acute symptoms, whatever is there in front of you.
Can urticaria get aggravated from sour things?
I have not seen. It can happen. See, such kind of like I told you, such will if it is happening from sour things, it will be allergic urticaria. Allergic urticaria can happen from anything, so it can also happen from sour things. The drug you should think is calcaria.
Okay, Mansi Oja has a question. Itching on scalp, for itching on scalp, is there any particular remedy?
Restox is the best drug for hairy areas. Wherein in Restox, what happens is the patient feels that there is raised bumps of skin. So urticaria of the scalp is the most difficult to diagnose, because in between the hair, seeing the wheals and all that will be very difficult. But Restox is the drug.
Okay, great. Any other questions do we have? Great, Dr. Saritha. Very thorough understanding of the topic you have, and the questions you have answered in a very wonderful way. Thank you so much for being
Thank you,
there at our platform. Can you stop screen sharing option, ma'am?
Yeah,
Just
one
an announcement to make. Okay, so I will be sharing a link right now in the chat window. So you can share the feedback of today's webinar through this link, and also you will get a digital certificate which will directly come to your email ID. So this is the link wherein you can share the feedback of today's webinar, and you will also get a digital certificate directly on your email ID. Other than this, we are going to post this webinar, recording of this webinar on the YouTube channel of Bhagavad-Gita Lab, and we shall share the link in I-Sampark webinar group. In case if any doctor is not there in I-Sampark webinar group and you would like to be part of this group, then I can just share the invite link. You can join this group, and we shall keep you posted on upcoming webinars as well as other initiatives that Bhagavad-Gita Lab will be doing in future. Thank you so much, doctors, for participating in today's webinar. Shari,
Thank you, Ishmat. Can I speak for a second? Thank you,
Yeah,
Ishmat,
sure.
for giving me an opportunity to share my knowledge. It was a wonderful experience. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Shari, can you share the screen? So in the end, I have just one thing to say, that Bhagavad-Gita Lab has always been in front to do maximum initiatives to take, for the upliftment of homeopathy. We started with this I-Sampark webinar when in the year 2020, when COVID was there. We also did many Facebook live sessions to educate our people, to educate general public with maximum so that we can associate them with homeopathy. So all these initiatives are there, and we would like to invite more doctors for our I-Sampark webinar. In case if you are interested, if you know any doctor who can be a speaker on our platform, we would be very happy to host the same. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for your participation. You can get the certificates directly from the link. Thank you. Have a good day.